Linux, the operating system that runs a huge part of the internet, from a tiny core called the kernel. By the end of this video, you will understand what Linux actually is, and concepts like kernel, GNU, shell, distributions. These words show up everywhere in the tech environment. Most people hear them a lot, but never connect them into one clear picture. We will build Linux layer by layer to finally get a clear view. My name is Diego, I'm a DevOps engineer based in Paris, and I like breaking down tech concepts into simple and visual explanations. If you want to see more videos like this one, feel free to subscribe, and that's all. Back to the video. When you open your laptop, you do things like connect to the Wi-Fi, open applications, open a website, save files, and much more. It feels simple, but behind the scenes, there are many hardware decisions. Which application gets CPU time? Where exactly to store data in memory? How files reach the disk? And how packets pass through your network card? If every application tries to control the hardware on its own, the machine will be a mess. Apps will crash into each other, data will get corrupted, security will be a mess. So computers need a control layer between software and hardware. This is why we have operating systems. At the bottom, we have the hardware, the CPU, memory, disk, and network. Now, on top of that hardware, we have a new layer. This is the operating system. It sits between the hardware and everything else running on the machine. So instead of every application talking directly to the CPU, memory, or disk, everything goes through this cube first. In this video, that cube is Linux. And the easiest way to understand Linux is not with a list of concepts, but as a structure. So we will explore the cube layer by layer, starting from its core. That core is the heart of the system, and everything else depends on it. We call it the kernel. The kernel is the core part of Linux. It talks to the hardware, it decides who gets CPU time, it manages memory, it reads and writes files to the disk, it also sends and receives network traffic. In simple words, the kernel is the part that keeps the whole system under control. And here is a really important distinction. Linux is the kernel, not the whole operating system by itself. The full operating system is the complete package built around that kernel. So, in everyday conversations, when people say Linux, they often mean the whole operating system, even though the word Linux technically refers to the kernel. So, if the kernel is the core, what comes next? Around that core, we have another layer called the Userland. Userland is the collection of programs and tools that helps users and applications interact with the system. This includes things like the shell, process tools, file commands, text tools, and many of the basic commands people use every day. The shell is one way to use Linux by typing commands. A graphical interface is another way, where instead of typing, you click on windows, icons, and buttons. A different way to interact with it, but the same system behind. And on top of that, we finally have applications. Some examples are browsers, databases, web servers, and more. So now the picture is way more clear. At the bottom, there is the hardware. At the core, there is the kernel. Around it, there is Userland. And on top, there are applications. Put all of those layers together, and you get a complete operating system. However, that same system can be packaged in different ways. That's what we call a Linux distribution. One packaged version of that full system. Ubuntu, Debian, Fedora, Arch, Rocky Linux, Alpine, they all follow the same structure, but they are packaged with different tools, configurations, and designed with different goals in mind. Some focus on being easy to use, others focus on stability, and some give more manual control. This is why two Linux machines can feel very different even though they are both running Linux. And that is also why there are so many of them. Because many distributions are built on top of other distributions. For example, Ubuntu is built on top of Debian, and Linux Mint is built on top of Ubuntu. One distro becomes the base for another, which then becomes the base for more. So when you look at the Linux ecosystem, it starts to feel less like one product and more like a huge family tree. Different branches, different goals, different flavors, but still built around the same Linux core. Once you see everything as a structure, Linux starts to feel much easier to understand. If this video helped you to understand Linux better, please leave a comment. I will appreciate it. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.